Hi, today we're going to show you how to change the spark plugs on a 2.5 liter Hyundai V6 engine. This particular car we're working on is a 1999 Sonata. First, we're going to have to remove the 4 bolts holding the cover plate here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next, we're going to also remove the screw here. We're not going to remove it, but we're going to loosen this screw and this screw here. This will allow this to come back away. Okay, after removing the 2 screws there, or loosening them to pull this back, you're going to have to remove this vacuum line right here on the bottom. Just like so. And we just set this off to the side. I'm not even going to disconnect the wires, I'm just going to set it off to the side there. Alright, in addition, you're going to have to remove the oil cap. These 4 screws have been loosened. This cover will just lift off. You can see the 3 front spark plugs here. Next, we're going to have to loosen the bolts here on the plenum, also called the surge tank on this particular engine. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and then on the back of the plenum, you can see here, there's a bolt here and back on the other corner. Alright, I should have pointed out that these 4 bolts are 10 millimeters in size. And these other bolts that we talked about just a moment ago, here, 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 and 2 on the back, they are 12 millimeter. So you're going to need a 12 millimeter socket. Alright. The other bolt on the back of the plenum is located right underneath the bracket here for the throttle. So it's right about where you see my finger pointing here. You can see that. We're going to be right in here. Okay? Okay, I've got those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts and 2 nuts. There's a nut here and a nut here. So you've got 5 bolts, 2 nuts, and then 2 bolts from the rear. One right in here and the other's right in here. Okay? Next, you're going to want to take a 10 millimeter socket and remove the throttle cable support clamps. Okay, this is going to give us room to move everything back out of the way. So we're going to remove these 2 clamps. We're going to snip this cable here that's holding the throttle. Then back over here, this is important to note. Down in here is the fuel line coming off of the throttle body right here. See my finger there? So we're going to want to unclamp that so that when we pull everything up, we're not pulling on that line. Okay? Alright. As earlier described, I actually found that there's a 3rd bolt on the back. There's 1, 2, 3 bolts on the back of the plenum that have to come out. And then as we discussed over here, I removed the vacuum line off the PCV valve here, and there's a vacuum line. I'm not sure if it's a vacuum or fuel line here. Okay, and we have to remove that. We're going to have to remove this sensor right here. You just basically push in on the side tab here at the back of it, and it'll unplug. Okay? And the reason why is there's not a lot of room here to move. We may actually have to also remove these 2 sensors here, which we'll go ahead and do. What you have here are retaining clips. They pull back and out. You may need a screwdriver to do that. You'll pop these retaining clips back, and then these will come loose. Okay? Be careful not to pry too hard on these, and if they fall down into the engine, you have a hell of a time getting them back out. But they're just retaining clips. You're just going to pry it back a little bit, and then that's going to release. Also, right here, there's a small vacuum line right here that's going to have to be removed. Okay? Set that off to the side. Alright. Also, this sensor right here, I don't know if you can see that, this sensor here is going to have to come loose as well. Alright? And then that's going to allow us to basically lift what's called the surge tank. Hyundai calls this whole assembly here the surge tank. It's also called the plenum. So, depending on who you're speaking to. Now, that'll all just lift off of there at this point. See how it just lifted back? So it'll all just lift up. And then you'll have to kind of pry up in here to get at these back spark plugs. But that's what you're going to do there. Now, this gasket here, the plenum gasket or surge tank gasket, you can pick those up at pretty much any parts store. Again, you're going to ask for either the plenum or the surge tank gasket. They cost about $8 to $9. Alright, around to the spark plugs here. This front spark plug here, you're going to need to pull the wire loose from the actual coil pack right there, because there's not enough room to get it up out of there otherwise. And then it'll just pull out like so. Alright. Now, depending on the spark plug that's currently in the engine, you're going to either need a 14 millimeter socket, or I believe it's a 5/8. You'll just have to play with that. The spark plug that was in here last was a Champion's plug. The recommended plugs are the Denso plugs, which are the actual original Hyundai plugs, or the NGK Iridiums. This is what the dealers are now recommending, the NGK Iridiums. And on this engine, you can see the part number there. Again, this is a 2.5 liter V6. Alright, and there's no need to gap these plugs. These plugs are pre-gapped. Also, the computer, the car actually has a computer that will compensate for the spark of the plug, so it'll adjust itself after a little bit of driving. So when we first replace the plugs, we're going to want to allow the car to just sit and idle for a while. Let the computer think, gather its information, make some adjustments. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start removing these plugs. As you'll see, that's a pretty deep hole there. And you just remove them one at a time. I recommend just remove them one at a time and then put the wires back on it. Now, if you run against what I ran across here, is this wire here. You see this is separated on the boot instead of pulling out like it should. Okay, so what you're going to want to do there is just very gently make sure you got a hold of the shaft underneath, but you're just going to gently give her a pull, okay, and she'll come up out of there. Alright, I have the front 3 plugs replaced already, and I'm finding it just a little bit difficult here to get to the back plug over here, and that's because I can't get the plenum to come up and over enough. And the reason why is, I don't know if you can see that there, there's 2 lines coming up into the carburetor, or what you'd call the carburetor throttle body. These are going to have to be removed. Okay, so I'm going to remove those next. Okay, those are those 2 lines that were holding me up right here. So we got those removed, and also this connector goes on right here. You want to remove that. That's These are your injectors, okay? So you want to remove that so that this thing can just flop back up there. Now I got all the room I need to get to the back plugs. Alright, I don't know if you can see this or not. Well, yeah, you can. I took a bungee cord here to hold the plenum back because I found that just being here working by myself, it's a bit difficult to work the ratchet and have that thing resting against me, so I bungeed that back up out of the way. Alright, I'm working on all but the last spark plug back here in the corner now, but what I wanted to show you